Dwayne The Rock Johnson walked into the luxury mall, wearing a simple blue shirt, sunglasses, and his hands casually tucked in his pockets. As he strolled through the mall, he observed everything around him: the elegant stores, the well-dressed shoppers. Despite being one of the most famous figures in Hollywood, The Rock blended in, unnoticed by everyone. But not everyone was indifferent. A security guard, standing near the entrance, noticed him. The guard's sharp eyes scanned The Rock up and down, taking in his simple attire, a plain blue shirt and sunglasses. The guard narrowed his eyes, sizing him up. To him, The Rock didn't look like the type of person who belonged in such a high-end mall. The security guard made a quick decision. Without hesitating, he approached The Rock, ready to ask him to leave. He didn't know who he was dealing with, but he assumed that someone dressed so casually had no place in the upscale shopping center. The Rock, however, remained calm. He didn't show any sign of anger or frustration. Instead, he continued to walk slowly through the mall, fully aware of the guard's judgment but choosing not to react. The security guard quickly walked over to The Rock, his expression firm and suspicious. He crossed his arms and looked The Rock up and down, his eyes filled with judgment. "Hey, you need to leave," the guard said, thinking The Rock was just another person wandering the mall without any real purpose. The Rock didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice or try to explain himself. Instead, he simply nodded and turned away. With his hands still in his pockets, he walked calmly toward the exit, his steps measured and steady. As he walked, The Rock's mind lingered on the guard's words and actions. He had been treated like he didn't belong here, just because of his simple clothing. The Rock had been in countless situations where he was treated with respect and admiration, but this was different. It wasn't about him, this was about how people were judged based on how they looked, or what they wore. He felt a quiet discomfort. This wasn't just about him being turned away, it was about something bigger. The Rock kept walking, his thoughts deepening as he left the mall, but he knew this moment wasn't over. The next day, things would be different. The next day, The Rock returned to the mall, dressed exactly the same as before, a simple blue shirt, sunglasses, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. His attire was as unassuming as it had been the day before, and once again, he blended in with the crowd. But this time, he wasn't just there to observe, he had a point to prove. As he walked through the mall, he felt a sense of déjà vu. The same polished floors, the same expensive boutiques, and the same high-end shoppers surrounded him. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He wasn't just walking through a luxury mall, he was walking through a place where appearance mattered more than substance, where being seen was more important than who you truly were. As he strolled, the same security guard spotted him again. The guard's eyes narrowed as he recognized The Rock's simple outfit and immediately made an assumption: this man didn't belong in this kind of place. His steps quickened as he made his way toward The Rock, his posture rigid and his expression stern. "You again," the guard said, his voice carrying an edge of irritation. "I already told you to leave." The Rock didn't flinch. He didn't let the guard's attitude affect him. Instead, he remained calm and composed, his face unreadable. He decided not to reveal his true identity just yet. There was no need to make a scene, at least not yet. He could tell the guard was about to make the same mistake again, but this time, The Rock wasn't going to back down without a fight. "I'm just looking around," The Rock said quietly, his voice steady. "Is that a problem?" As The Rock walked deeper into the mall, he began to notice something troubling. He observed how different customers were treated in the same space. Some were greeted with warmth and smiles, while others were ignored or looked down upon. A well-dressed woman entered a high-end store, and the staff rushed to greet her, offering her champagne and chatting with her like old friends. Everything seemed perfect. But then, The Rock watched a different scene unfold. A young couple entered the same store, their clothes simple but neat. They hesitated by the counter, waiting for attention, but no one approached them. They stood there for several minutes, awkward and uncomfortable. Finally, a salesperson looked up, speaking in a cold tone, "Can I help you?" It was obvious they were treated differently. This wasn't an isolated incident. The more The Rock observed, the more he saw that the mall had a clear bias towards certain types of customers. Wealthy, well-dressed individuals were welcomed, while others were ignored or dismissed. The Rock felt uneasy, his suspicions confirmed. The mall's atmosphere was built on a set of unspoken rules, and it was clear that not everyone was welcome. He decided to test how he would be treated, walking toward a store to see if he, too, would face the same coldness. As The Rock approached the store, he could feel the security guard's eyes on him again. It was clear that the guard was waiting for another chance to confront him. Just as The Rock stepped up to the door, the guard moved in, blocking his path. "You need to leave," the security guard said, his voice firm and impatient. "This isn't the place for you." The Rock stopped in his tracks and looked at the guard calmly, his face calm and his tone even. "Is there a rule that says I can't be here?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. The guard didn't back down. "I told you, this isn't a place for people like you," he replied, still scanning The Rock with a critical eye. The Rock didn't get angry. He didn't raise his voice or try to fight. Instead, he simply stood there, staring at the guard for a moment. His gaze was unbothered, but there was a quiet power behind it. "Who decides who belongs here?" The Rock asked, his voice still calm but with a strong edge to it. The guard was momentarily caught off guard. He didn't have an answer. The Rock wasn't the type to argue or shout, but his words carried weight. He wasn't just questioning the guard's authority, he was questioning the system that judged people based on their appearance. The Rock wasn't going to back down this time. He wasn't just another person being pushed around. This time, he was standing up for something much bigger. The Rock stood his ground, watching the security guard closely. The guard's attitude hadn't changed. He still didn't think The Rock belonged in the mall. The Rock felt a calm confidence building inside him. It was time to end this, not with anger, but with truth. Without breaking eye contact, The Rock slowly removed his sunglasses. He let the guard take in his face. The guard's eyes widened as he stared at the familiar features. He seemed to recognize him, but still couldn't believe it. The Rock's presence had always been larger than life, but in this moment, it felt like the security guard was starting to realize who he was. With a quiet but firm tone, The Rock spoke. "I own this place." The words landed heavy in the air, like a shockwave. The security guard froze, his expression shifting from suspicion to disbelief. He took a step back, trying to process what he'd just heard. It took a moment, but slowly, everything started to click in his mind, the calm demeanor, the way The Rock carried himself, the way he hadn't fought back. It wasn't just the clothes or the sunglasses, this man wasn't some random customer. Before the guard could respond, the mall manager appeared, rushing over with a pale face. The manager looked up at The Rock, his eyes wide with recognition. "Mr. Johnson," the manager stammered, clearly embarrassed. I didn't realize. I'm so sorry for the misunderstanding." The Rock nodded slightly, his gaze unwavering. He wasn't here for apologies. It wasn't just about this one mistake, it was about the larger issue at hand. But for now, the manager's apology was a sign that the guard's ignorance had consequences, and things were about to change in a big way. The Rock stood tall, his gaze focused on both the security guard and the mall manager. He wasn't going to let this go. The words the guard had said earlier, the way he had been treated, it all pointed to a bigger issue. This wasn't just about a misunderstanding, it was about unfair treatment and discrimination that had been happening in the mall for a long time. Turning to the manager, The Rock's voice was calm, but firm. "Do you know what's going on here?" he asked, his tone carrying a quiet authority. I've been watching how people are treated today, how some customers are treated with respect, while others are ignored or treated badly. What's the reason for that? Why do some people belong here, and others don't? The manager shifted uncomfortably, but didn't answer. The Rock wasn't surprised. He had a feeling the manager knew exactly what was happening but wasn't ready to admit it. Instead, The Rock took out his phone and opened a file. He handed the phone to the manager, showing him the mall's online reviews. "Take a look at this," The Rock said. "This mall has a rating of just 1.8 stars out of 5. And look at these comments. People are talking about being treated poorly, about being ignored or thrown out because they didn't look the part. Some even said they were followed by security just for browsing." The manager's face went pale as he read through the complaints. "You think this is just a coincidence?" The Rock asked, raising an eyebrow. "You think customers don't notice how they're treated based on what they wear or how they look? This is a problem, and it's happening under your watch." The security guard stood there, silent, realizing that The Rock wasn't just some random guy who was making trouble. He was the owner of the mall, and he wasn't going to let this slide. The Rock turned to the guard. "You treated me like I didn't belong here just because of my clothes. And you've probably done the same thing to others." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Do you think that's fair? Do you think it's okay to judge people by their appearance and decide whether they can shop or not?" The security guard looked down, not able to answer. The Rock's voice grew stronger. "I want to know why this is happening. Why are some customers treated differently than others? Why is there this bias? This place should be welcoming to everyone, no matter who they are or what they wear." The manager shifted nervously, but The Rock wasn't finished. "You've got a serious problem here, and it's not just with me. It's about the people who walk through these doors every day. The ones you've treated unfairly. You can't keep ignoring this." The manager, now realizing the gravity of the situation, started to apologize. But The Rock wasn't done. "You can apologize all you want, but actions speak louder than words. It's time to fix this." The Rock stood in front of the manager and security guard, his decision clear. He wasn't going to let this slide any longer. He turned to the manager, his tone serious but calm. "I'm not just going to let this go. We need to make changes, starting now. This toxic culture ends today." The manager looked taken aback, clearly unprepared for The Rock's strong stance. "But Mr. Johnson, this is," he began, but The Rock interrupted him. "No excuses," The Rock said, cutting him off. "This isn't just about me. It's about the customers, the people who come here to shop, and the employees who are treated poorly. I want an emergency staff meeting right now. Get everyone, every employee, manager, and security guard in this mall, gathered here. Now." The manager hesitated for a moment, clearly shocked, but knew there was no arguing with The Rock. He nodded quickly and rushed to make the call. Within the next 20 minutes, the mall's staff gathered in the central atrium. Employees from all departments, cashiers, security guards, store managers, restaurant staff, stood in a tense silence, wondering what was happening. The atmosphere was thick with uncertainty as they waited for The Rock to speak. When everyone was gathered, The Rock stepped up in front of them. There was no podium, no microphone, just The Rock, standing in front of the crowd. His presence was commanding, and everyone knew this was serious. "This mall is mine," The Rock began, his voice loud and clear. "But it doesn't just belong to me. It belongs to everyone who walks through these doors. It belongs to the people who shop here and to the employees who work here. And for too long, too many people have been treated badly here. That stops now." He looked around the room, making sure everyone was listening. "I'm not here to make empty promises. I'm here to make this place better. But I can't do it alone. I need all of you, every single person here, to help me. This has to be a place of respect and fairness for everyone. No one should feel like they don't belong, no matter how they look or what they wear. You're all part of making that happen." The employees looked at each other, some nervous, others hopeful. The Rock's words were powerful, and there was a sense of change in the air. The mall's management was caught off guard, but The Rock made it clear, change was non-negotiable. He wasn't backing down. The real work was just beginning, and he knew it would take everyone's support to make it happen. The Rock stood in front of the gathered employees in the atrium, his presence commanding their full attention. He could feel the weight of the moment. This was not just about one incident, it was about the culture of the entire mall. Change had to happen, and it had to happen now. He began by looking around at the employees, his voice steady and firm. "I want everyone here to understand something very clearly," he said. "The way people are treated here, whether they're customers or employees, needs to be fair and respectful. There should be no bias, no judgment based on how someone looks or what they wear. This mall belongs to everyone who steps foot inside, and we will make sure everyone feels welcome, no matter who they are." He paused for a moment, allowing his words to sink in. But this isn't just about policies or rules. It's about respect. It's about treating everyone with dignity, no matter their background. We're changing the way things are done here. We will create an environment where people feel valued. The manager stood a little behind him, looking uncomfortable. He clearly knew he had played a part in allowing this culture to thrive. He stepped forward and cleared his throat. "Mr. Johnson, I want to apologize," he said, his voice shaky. "I didn't realize how much damage had been done. I'm sorry for allowing this to happen. I promise we will make the changes necessary to fix this." The security guard, who had once acted with suspicion and hostility, also stepped forward, looking down at the floor. "I'm sorry, too," he said quietly. "I judged people based on what they were wearing or how they looked, and that was wrong. I see now how my actions affected others, and I'll make sure I do better from now on." The Rock nodded, accepting their apologies. But he wasn't done. Apologies are a start, but they're not enough. Actions speak louder than words. We all need to be part of this change, and that starts today. From now on, we treat everyone with respect, no matter who they are. It's time to rebuild trust with our customers and each other. The employees looked at each other, some nodding, others still unsure, but there was a sense of change in the air. The Rock had made it clear, this wasn't just about one apology, it was about the culture of the entire mall shifting toward fairness and inclusion. After the meeting, The Rock made sure that the changes weren't just talk, they were going to be real and lasting. He sat down with the managers and department heads, making sure they understood the importance of treating every customer and employee with respect. He helped revamp the mall's policies, ensuring that no one would be turned away or mistreated based on their appearance or how much money they spent. From that moment, the changes started to take effect. The mall's atmosphere began to shift. Employees, who had once felt like they were powerless or unheard, started to feel empowered. They knew that things were different now, and they could feel the respect in the air. The once cold and exclusive feeling of the mall began to fade, replaced by a sense of warmth and welcome. The Rock wasn't content with just a few changes. He knew that real change took time and constant effort. He didn't just walk away after making a few adjustments. Instead, he stayed involved, checking in regularly to make sure the new policies were being followed. He made sure that the staff was trained to handle situations with fairness and respect, and he encouraged them to speak up if they saw something that wasn't right. As time went on, customers began to notice the difference. They could feel the change in the way they were treated. The negative reviews started to fade, replaced by positive feedback about how much more inclusive and welcoming the mall had become. People no longer felt judged when they walked through the doors. They felt like they belonged. But The Rock knew that he couldn't stop there. He continued to challenge those in charge, pushing for even more improvements. Whether it was better training for employees or making sure that every customer was treated fairly, The Rock was determined to make sure that the mall remained a place of respect and fairness for everyone. The impact of his efforts wasn't just seen in the mall's new atmosphere, it was felt by everyone who worked there and every customer who visited. The Rock had made a real difference, and his work had only just begun. As The Rock walked through the mall one last time before leaving, he felt a sense of pride. The atmosphere had completely changed since he first walked in. The mall, once full of tension and unspoken rules, now felt open and welcoming. The employees were no longer fearful of making a mistake or being judged. They stood tall, confident, and ready to help any customer who walked through the doors. Customers, too, could feel the difference. No longer did they have to worry about being treated differently based on their appearance. Whether they wore expensive clothes or simple outfits, everyone was now treated with the same level of respect. The once exclusive atmosphere had shifted to one of inclusion and fairness. People no longer felt like they didn't belong, they felt like they were a part of something bigger, a space where everyone was welcome. The Rock knew that these changes wouldn't happen overnight, but seeing the progress made him confident that the shift had truly begun. He had made sure that the culture of the mall would never go back to what it was. The work he had started wasn't just about the actions of one person or one day. It was about changing the way people saw each other, about making the mall a place where respect came first. As he walked out of the mall, he took a deep breath of fresh air. He knew that the battle wasn't over, but he had set things in motion. The changes were real, and they would continue to grow. The Rock had proven that one person could make a difference, and he had made sure that the mall would be a better place for everyone who came through its doors, no matter who they were or where they came from. Walking away from the mall, The Rock couldn't help but smile. He had done something important. He had started a movement that would continue long after he left. And that, he knew, was just the beginning. The video ends with a powerful message: fairness, respect, and kindness are the foundation of a better world. The Rock's actions in the mall showed that even small changes can have a huge impact. By standing up for what's right, he made a difference that will last. This story is a reminder that we all have the power to challenge unfairness and discrimination, no matter where we are. Whether it's in our communities, schools, or workplaces, we can take a stand and make sure everyone is treated with respect and dignity. If you believe in fairness, take action. Speak up when you see someone being treated unfairly. Help create spaces where everyone feels welcome, no matter their background. Together, we can make the world a more inclusive and respectful place for all. Let's make a change, one step at a time.